So before I started researching for this video, I was looking at the initial article and I realised when reading it that, I'm not entirely sure what I believe, as in the stance I take. I say that because, well, you know what, let's just get into it, because I know a number of you are very no-nonsense in your perception and view on those that commit certain crimes and then going into the workplace. Human Rights Commission orders Suncor to compensate paedophile after it refused to hire him because of his criminal record, but the bank refuses to pay. Now this comes after the Australian Human Rights Commission ordered Suncor to compensate a registered sex offender. And this has me in a bit of a which is why I've said that a couple of times already. What type of jobs can a registered sex offender do? And I do want to point it out now, the article has already conflated a paedophile and a sex offender. I want to make it quite clear here. He's already committed a crime, therefore he is a sex offender. Although it is possible he committed a crime against an adult and not a child, so perhaps we can use both. In any case, perhaps you, my viewers, could tell me what occupations should, shall, maybe, could a registered sex offender and or paedophile get. We all know the ones they cannot, so any risk of being around children, certainly for the paedophile element, understandable. If the supposed victim in all of this, called BE, is male and committed these acts against females, then of course, to preserve Suncor's image, do they really want at their bank working a counter a registered sex offender? Also something to consider here, would Suncor have to declare that they have a registered sex offender working for them? And let's also add to that, wouldn't that negatively impact on their image, if they have one at all? Another thing to consider, a bank is well within their right, any employer is well within their right to refuse to hire someone. That is a fact. It is why so many people are turned down all the time. You, the Australian Human Rights Commission, have set a somewhat precedent by saying you now must hire, because other people can now come forward and say, and use any bogus argument they want, that they were discriminated against, and you have done it because you believe this particular sex offender and or paedophile is somehow worthy of that post. Now the bank refusing to pay, I actually understand, because they could have had a whole host of other reasons for not hiring him, for example, not being suitable. And with AHRC sticking their nose in, it certainly makes you wonder how far is their reach. Well, according to a previous federal employment minister, the Australian Human Rights Commission should not be touching employment, and they should instead hand the matters over to the Fair Work Commission. And I think, considering who they're now defending, it is, and I've said this many times in many recent videos, the AHRC defending a sex offender and or paedophile is pretty bad optics. I can't be the only person that thinks it's highly inappropriate. While AHRC President Rosalind Croucher conceded BE, the supposed victim, did not fully disclose his criminal record, she still ordered the company to pay him a total of $2,500. I'll be honest, you then have immediately alerted everyone as to a valid reason the company should never have hired him. Unless you're telling us now that companies should do an absolute blind hiring scenario, which has been tried before I believe, and it failed miserably. If they did that, they had no name, no gender, no record of anyone. They only had their previous experience and qualifications, and he got the job, BE got the job. Then of course there'll be many questions asked about the absolute blind system. But a company is well within its rights to decide who they do and do not hire, and criminal records are quite important. They are an indicator as to whether or not they are a suitable fit, not only to the image, but the nature of the occupation. Now granted, I'm not entirely sure how relevant being a sex offender and or a paedophile in relation to an insurance claims consultant. Then again, insurance companies. Oh, I could make one joke right here. Just not going to do it. In any case, you have made it quite clear he did not disclose quite important information, and I just have to wonder, how far are you, AHRC President Rosalind Croucher, willing to go to defend someone and make yourself look bad in the process? Now, Professor Croucher said in a statement, "Notwithstanding the very serious nature of Mr. B.E.'s convictions, I find that Suncor's decision to deny Mr. B the opportunity to access employment with Suncor constituted an exclusion which impaired Mr. B.E.'s quality of opportunity." Well, actually, he had the opportunity. He had the opportunity to apply for the job, and they had the opportunity to turn him down once all the information was finally revealed. Hell, they didn't even need all of it to turn him down. I know that's not very skeptical, but the dude's a sex offender. I don't know if a bank wants to have a sex offender interacting with potential clients when the guy's a sex offender. I'm not sure if I could articulate that any more delicately. I feel like a more blunt way of putting it across is accurate and appropriate. I accept that having a conditional offer of employment extended to him, and then rescinded on the basis of a criminal record that does not adequately relate to the inherent requirements of the role, has caused distress. Well, it's a funny thing, because much like doing financial background checks, an employer does a criminal background check as well. This is not exactly something new to employers. This is something a lot of employers do, and they are well within their rights to do so, unless you're about to tell me Australian employment law says criminals can work anywhere for anyone, no matter what the crime. This sounds as stupid as giving a known rapist a job working as a gynecologist. B.E. reportedly answered no to a question in his online application that asked if he had been convicted of an offence. Well then, if this is true, then they don't have to at all hire him or pay him or anything, because he lied on his application. That outright lie, whereas earlier it indicated omission of information. He outright lied. His application is null and void. Sorry, sex offender and or paedophile, B.E., but you don't get to pal up some potential clients. Do you have to tell them you're a sex offender when you meet a client? I have to ask. I'm curious here. B.E.'s criminal record dates back to 2008, which included convictions of use of a carriage service to access child pornography material and possession of child pornography. B.E. was sentenced to a year in jail and was suspended for 2 years. Suncor also told to re-educate its staff, revise its policies, and review its conduct after the incident. To Suncor, this is from me to you now. Don't. The man lied, therefore you did nothing wrong. The man is a sex offender and a paedophile. Earlier I said and or, however this now tells me it is definite. Therefore, if you don't want to employ someone that has that on their record and they didn't tell you they had that on their record, and you could run the risk of them meeting a client that may or may not have a child around, yeah. Good on you for not wanting to damage your image, and good on you for not wanting to pay £2,500 to a paedophile and a sex offender. I wouldn't pay him a penny, even if it is Australian currency. I wouldn't pay him Canadian. Suncor released a statement in 2015 on this. We have carefully considered your findings and recommendations. In particular, we note your finding that Mr. B.E. was discriminated against on the basis of his criminal record, and rightly so. We respectfully maintain that Mr. B.E.'s record is of a serious nature, of course, and impacts on his ability to perform the inherent requirements of the work-at-home consultant role. For this reason, Suncor declines to pay any compensation to Mr. Paedophile. Notwithstanding the above, Suncor has developed comprehensive recruitment procedures and provides ongoing training to employees, including in relation to anti-discrimination and equal opportunity. These procedures and training assist with ensuring we can fairly assess whether a prospective employee with a criminal record can perform the inherent requirements of a particular role on a case-by-case basis. I stand by my now cemented belief that the sex offender and paedophile should not receive a penny, and the Australian Human Rights Commission needs to reassess its own values. It's really sad that it's gotten to the point where you're defending a paedophile and sex offender, as it only makes you look bad. Now that all aside, I hope everyone has a lovely Monday, and thank you all for listening.
Oh, goddowns.
In your arse.
Imagine my shock